All right, what up, fools? All right, so podcast time. We haven't done an adversity and success podcast in forever. I've got Vaughn and Zach with me. Modern dating, the crisis of delusion. Why are we doing this? So we did this modern dating ad hoc video a few weeks ago. I was I was giving a keynote address in Milwaukee, and the night before, the team and I are just sitting at a table at the hotel. And one of the new guys on the team, we just started talking about dating somehow. I don't even remember where it came from. And Zach just pulled the camera out with a shotgun mic and filmed it and uploaded it. And I got a lot of feedback. We've gotten a lot of feedback on that video. I got a lot of private messages thanking me for it. I mean, like a half dozen within the first week of like private messages from younger guys. And then I got a lot of follow-up questions. So the purpose of this, I'm going to answer a lot of the follow-up questions. But the goal here today is to talk about our experiences in dating. And you know, why would I even do this? You know, question number one, why should anyone listen to you? Well, I've been pretty successful in dating my entire life. Vaughn's been successful in dating in his life. Zach's been successful in dating in his life. But our success is it's very diverse. Like it can't be put into a bottle. So like what's worked for me may not have worked for Vaughn, may not have worked for Zach, right? Because so much about being successful in dating as a guy is leaning into your strengths and working on your weaknesses, right? So what's going to be successful for me is going to be a function of my ability, whatever my strength is, and really maximizing that and then buttressing my weaknesses. Number two, this big question was like, if you had to summarize modern dating in one word, what word would you summarize it in? And I said, I can't summarize it in one word, but I can in a sentence. And it's the crisis of delusion, right? The biggest problem in dating today is the proliferation of delusion in both men and women. But I only date women, so I'm going to talk about it from the perspective of women. And then number three, why are we even doing this? I have 3 sons. I have, in our family, Vaughn and I are brothers. We're half brothers. We have the same dad. All we do is create boys. I'm telling you, I'm telling you right now, there is one girl in my whole family. Okay. I have 9 brothers and sisters. My sisters are adopted. In my whole family, we literally only have boys. Like all of us have only had sons. I have an adopted daughter. Okay. I've raised 3 sons. I have a 25-year-old son, a 20-year-old son, a 17-year-old son. I've had to help them navigate dating in their early years. They've all been successful. My 17-year-old son is just now starting to date. And, I look at the information that's out there. There's a lot of guys growing up without their dads. Or if they have a father, maybe there's a lot of guys out there whose father is not, he's ill-equipped to give advice on dating. A lot of guys are growing up without dads. I see the content that's out there. I've heard the stuff that my sons come to me with. Hey, Dad, what do you think of Rich Cooper? What do you think of Rollo Tomasi? What do you think of these other guys that are in the red pill community? What do you think of their advice? And I say, I agree with a lot of the stuff that they say, but you run the risk of becoming black-pilled. You run the risk of becoming very cynical if you only listen to what these guys have to say. And so that's part of the reason I'm doing this. I've been successful my whole life, and I'm going to pass on the things that I've learned, for better or worse, to my kids and grandkids. All right, with that, that's the goal today.
I'm
to
curious.
Talk about delusion. Zach, go ahead, brother.
So what was your first experience? Have you had a firsthand experience with delusion, and what was that? And then obviously we're going to get into where do you think the delusion comes from?
Yeah, so I want to break like my dating experience into 2 categories. Okay, so I dated from 15 until I was 24, and when I met the woman I would marry, and then I was married from 24 I was with her from 24 to 48, and then I've been dating post-divorce, literally just from a couple of months after my divorce. So my categories are really, I dated when I was young, and what did I do to be successful dating when I was young until I met my ex-wife, and then what have I done to be successful in dating post-divorce? And they are 2 different things. They're not the same. So I have to answer all questions in two different categories, because being successful in dating as a 20-year-old is not the same as being successful in dating as a 50-year-old. It's not the same. There are decisions you're going to make as a 20-year-old. I would say that a 20-year-old should kind of dip their toe in the water all over the place, right, as a guy. But a 50-year-old shouldn't. The 50-year-old should be much more deliberate in his dating, because a 20-year-old is exposed to all the potential partners, the fucking shit shows and the gems, and they're equally distributed. But by the time you're 50, unless you're going to go and date 20-year-olds, a lot of the women that are available to you at 50, there's a disproportionate number of them who have blown up relationships, have carrying a lot of trauma, and you want to avoid them. When you're 20, you don't necessarily have to avoid that girl. You can still, you can explore that girl. You don't fall in love with her. Don't be in a relationship with her, but you can afford to spend a couple of years in a situationship with a smoke show who's a little insane.
Delusional.
Yeah, you don't want to do that at 50. My experience, that I have lots of experience with delusion with women, and the numbers, let's say post divorce, I've dated, I've been very fortunate post divorce. So the first time I ever dated on apps was post divorce. Hundreds of women, probably close to 1,000 of women have matched with me on two different apps. eHarmony and Bumble were the two that I were on. I'm not on them now. Haven't been since September, so it's like 9 months. I had 2 periods where I was on eHarmony and Bumble for like 3 months each. So 6 months since my divorce. So 6 months of 2 years I was on apps. I got probably, let's say, 1,000 matches. Women, I only matched with women who matched with me. So women would match with me. I would go on, and I would say I would match back with maybe 1 in 10. So I matched with maybe 100, messages with 96 out of those 100, ended up giving my number to maybe 40, went on first dates with 20, and I've had relationships with 7 or 8 of the 20. And of the 20 that I went out with, of the 7 I had relationships with, that is, I went on 3 or 4 dates, 3 or 4 dates at least.
Had relations with that woman?
Had relations, yeah. There was one in there. One of the 7 had potential, and I'm only talking about my experience on dating apps. I'm not talking about any dates I've been on with people I didn't meet on apps. Of the 20 women that I went on dates with,
how many were self-aware?
Self-aware, 2 of the 20.
What are the 3 questions you ask for the self-awareness test?
Yeah, the 3 questions I ask every single woman is, tell me about your dad. I try to get that in there somewhere. Tell me about your dad. And what I'm looking for is that, she has an understanding and an appreciation for a really strong masculine man. That she looks up to her father. And it doesn't have to be her father. It could be a stepdad. It could be a surrogate. But what you don't want to hear is acrimony, because that equals trauma. That's trauma you're going to have to deal with, whether it's her fault or not. Maybe she's being fair when she's saying she has an acrimony. He's an asshole. Maybe she's being fair, but you don't want that on you. Whether she's being fair or not, she carries trauma from it. And do you really want to take on that trauma when you have options out there without it, right? So you want to hear about a good, strong relationship with her dad. Number 2, what happened in your last relationship? And then number 3, most importantly, what would your ex say about you?
And that's when they start squirming.
Yeah. They'll start squirming on the second question. Tell me, what happened with your last relationship? I mean, you don't ask these questions in order. You work them in organically, and you try to get the answers to them, and you don't want it to sound like you're interviewing them or anything like that. But
did anyone just get up and walk and leave right there?
No. In fact, I didn't have a single woman that I went out with who didn't want to continue to date me. So I've never been ghosted. I've never had a woman be like, after my divorce, I've never had a woman who wasn't interested. Of the women I was texting with, there was one woman. So out of 39 of 40 wanted to go on first dates, but I only chose to go on first dates with 20 of them or so. One woman messaged me. We really hit it off. And then maybe a couple days later, she messaged me, hey, I reconnected with an ex. I really like you. If it doesn't work out, I'll reach out to you. And so I became the guy, her backup plan. You know what I mean? So, that was her rekindling with a previous love. So I've been very, very fortunate. I mean, it's obviously hard to talk about this shit because it makes you sound like a douche if you're talking about how good your dating life has been. I mean, but people are asking these questions and I want to answer them, because I have been fortunate. I have been at my experience with delusion. I'll say this, the number one experience with delusion that you see is women either have two types of delusion. They have more than that. The one you see the most is these two. Number one, they have unrealistic expectations about what they're looking for in a relationship. Like they don't understand that it's give and take. They never ask themselves the question. They can list off all the things they're looking for in a guy, but then they can't tell you what it is that guy's looking for. Right? They just have delusion. It's almost like they get their expectation of a relationship from TV, which is all produced. It's all fake. You know what I mean? And I'll tell you a story here about that in a second, about it being fake. Okay. That's number one, in terms of the delusion. And then the biggest sense of delusion is this: the girl who blames their ex for everything. They'll have, and by the way, there's never just one ex. Some rules out here, guys. 99% of women are going to lie to you about their past. Not every woman. I'm telling you, you don't ever go out there and thinking, but 99% of women are going to lie to you about their past. Now, right or wrong or indifferent, whether it's fair or it's unfair, 99% of women have something out there they're not proud of, and they're going to lie to you about it. Oftentimes, it's the body count. So generally, when a girl gives you a number on the body count, right? You guys agree here, hopefully. At a minimum, you should cut that number. You should double the number she gave you. So at a minimum, if she says she's been with 5 dudes, she means 10. If she says 10, she means 20. If she says 20, she means 40. Agreed? I mean, you guys don't disagree in that piece, right?
No, I've always heard that it was actually times it by 3, and then whatever the guy says, divide it by 3.
Right. But the thing,
and every woman has it in the notes app, and they may not remember all the names, but they have it all laid out in the roster, so they know what it is.
A fundamental difference between men and women, right? Here's a thing that you young guys need to know. I'm talking to the young guys right now. You don't know how you tick yet. Okay, so like number one, here's how you fall in love, because this is how every guy falls in love. Okay, here are some truisms about men. Ladies, if you could climb inside the mind of a 14-year-old boy, you'd never talk to a guy ever again the rest of your fucking life. Ever. Okay? Every 14-year-old boy thinks he's a fucking pervert. Every 14-year-old boy thinks there's something wrong with him because you're literally having sexual fantasies about people who, like your friends' moms, who are 400-pound cows. Like, nothing makes sense. You're literally, your whole body's on fire. You get a fucking hard on when the wind is right. You have no idea what the hell is going on. This is why fathers are so important. You need a father there to tell you there's nothing wrong with you. Like, hey, son, I know you're feeling these weird. This is why women can't raise men, because a woman doesn't even know what he's going through when he's 13 or 14. And we do know, right? You're not a fucking freak. Okay, because you're fucking rubbing it out 6 times a fucking day, and 3 of those times you're thinking about your friend's mom. You know what I mean? It's like that shit it's normal, and by the way, it goes away. Believe it or not, it goes away. It's just that period, that period when you're 13 to 16 or whatever. Number 2, we all fall in love the same way. Men fall in love the same way. Number 1, we know we're attracted to you, we're into you when we're close to a girl. We're, say, 4 feet, and we want to split that distance. We know we're into you when we're in a room full of people, and for whatever reason, our eyes keep getting drawn to you. That's how we know we're into you. That doesn't mean we like you. We just know we're into you. Now, guys, when you realize you're into a girl, don't be afraid to walk up to her and find out if you actually like her. Don't mistake being into a woman for you liking her.
Right.
Most guys will walk up to a girl and they're fucking terrified she's going to reject him, right? Dude, if a girl rejects you, she did you a favor. She did you a favor because you're not going to like a girl who rejected you. Okay? You're not going to like a girl who rejected you. So walk up trying to figure out if you like her. You want to know when we like a woman? We all know this. We talked about this is the second time we're shooting this. We like a woman after we've been intimate with her, and the moment it's over, we want her to stay. There are two types of women. There are women that we would sleep with, and there are women that we would have a relationship with. And we find out the type of women we have a relationship with after we sleep with them. In the vast majority of situations, you don't have to sleep with a woman to find out if you like her. You could abstain from sleeping with her and spend enough time with her to give yourself time to find out if you like her. But we move so quickly in the modern age, you're finding out if you like her after you fuck her. As soon as you come, you're figuring out you like her or not. Okay? And how do we know we love a woman? When she always looks the same to us. When it doesn't matter what she does to her hair or her fucking nails or whether she's in a t-shirt and no bra, whatever, and she always whatever our perception of her transfers to the way our heart sees her. And that's how we know we're in love. Listen, guys, that's the way it is. But what you young men, you cannot confuse physical attraction with emotional attraction. Okay? And the biggest mistake young men make is they conflate the two. Mm-hmm. They conflate the two. And in the process, they run through a shit ton of bodies. You know, a guy can sleep with 100 girls before he actually hurts himself emotionally. So guys got a lot more time than girls do, you know. But we're both delusional. Women are delusional in those two elements, and men are delusional. Women are delusional in more elements. But the men are delusional when they conflate. Like, a guy is delusional when he thinks that he can save a hoe. Like, you know, we call it Captain Save-A-Hoe, right? Like, you cannot save a woman who doesn't respect herself.
No.
If she doesn't respect herself, it doesn't matter how much you respect her. You can't save her. You cannot save her. Men are delusional if they think they can. Men are delusional when they think that all you got to do is love a woman unconditionally. And she will... That fucking doesn't mean shit. It don't mean shit. Right? How many guys out there have loved their partner unconditionally and gotten run through the ringer? That isn't the reason that she's with you. You know? Anyway, so the key to delusion, right? Delusion has just been, it's pervasive, it's everywhere. I want to ask you guys some questions about your experience before we come back to mine. Zach, your experience with delusion. I actually want to talk about a little bit more about like the styles of how you guys have dated over the you know, what your experience have been. There's a reason I asked Vaughn and Zach to be on here, right? And the reason why is because I wanted to, you know, Vaughn has come up through like the rock star lifestyle, right? And he's been very fortunate in dating. I've come up on the like the nerd. I'm an engineer. I'm like the nerdy dancer style, you know, guy. I was a dancer. I can sing. I'm charismatic, but I'm also a nerd. I have a very high IQ. I love to ask questions. I'm not the dark and mysterious guy. Okay. I do know that I have physical features that women find attractive, right? I do know that but I am not a fucking 10 by any, none of us here are 10s. Okay. And yet all three of us have been very successful in dating. And I think one of the other things that's misleading in the red pill community is that they talk too much about the guy, you know, the guy who's in the 20%, you know, 80% of women match with the same 20% of guys. You can have luck in dating if you're not in the top 20%. I know that I'm in that top 20% guy because of just the sheer number of matches I get.
I don't get that many matches.
Right. Statistically, I know I'm in that 20%, right? But you don't have to be in that top 20% to be lucky.
You're also in the peak earning of your, like you're at the peak earning of your life, right? You've got your family on lock. You're an executive, like you're benching over 400 pounds. You static held 495 pounds the other day. So, I mean, you're benching nearly 500 pounds. I mean, you're at the peak of your game. So you're probably a top, 5%er.
Right. I mean, financially, I'm in the top 1% of Americans. And then, bench press, I'm in the top 0.1% of all people in the world. Not that I think women care about a dude being able to bench press, but the qualities it takes for me to become a top 0.1% person bench pressing, the ability to set goals and achieve those goals and prioritize achievement and all that, those traits are traits that women find attractive, right? I mean, but I want to talk about you guys here. So Zach, I've known Zach now. I've actually Vaughn. Vaughn is my younger brother. We're close in age, same dad. Our dad was a musician, but I did not grow up with Vaughn. I never met our father. It was 2008, 2009. When did we actually meet each other?
2010.
When did Dad die?
He died in
Dad
2009. We met in 2010.
So it's been Vaughn and I have had a relationship now 14 years. Zach and I met in 2012. Okay. When I met Vaughn, he was with Nicole when I met Vaughn. So I knew the woman he would ultimately marry, so I didn't see I heard the stories about the pre-Nicole days. And I know what it's been like since Nicole passed away 4 years ago. He's a widower. And I'm very familiar with Zach's dating history since I've known Zach since he was fucking 20 years old. So 2012. So let's start with Zach here real quick. Zach, so for everybody else out here, Zach is he has a sister, grew up with both of his parents. Is your sister's older, right? Or is she younger than you?
Yeah.
Sister's younger. Zach has Asperger's. So he's on the spectrum, has Asperger's. So like sometimes we talk about this all the time, so I'm not putting him on blast. He doesn't always pick up on social cues. He's been incredibly lucky. He's been incredibly fortunate dating. And I'll give a couple plugs here. Zach is one of the few guys I know who have actually picked up a flight attendant on a flight. I mean, he actually, and then not only did he end up picking her up, he ended up dating her for years and they had a kid together. So obviously Zach has got game
all over the world, by the way.
Right.
If you can get with a flight attendant, you need to get with a flight attendant. It's life changing.
Right. So obviously Zach has game. He's been very fortunate in his dating, but his style of dating is different, right? And I want to talk about. So what has dating been like for you, Zach? For those of you, I don't think you would argue that you're traditionally attractive as a guy, like you know what I mean? Like,
no. I'm definitely average, below average. Like I would give myself maybe a 4. But like once you consider I make pretty good money, I have a nice place, right? I can be funny, intelligent,
smart.
Maybe that
really
puts me up to a 6 or a 7. But I'm definitely not in the. I know I'm not because like you say, you're only matching with the girls that match with you. I'm the bottom 80% because I'm just swiping, and I'm getting like 1% of matches. So I swipe with 100 women, I get 1 match. And then
what is that like?
It fucking sucks, dude. It sucks ass. Because a lot of times, even when you get the match, I'm horrible texting. So it's really hard for me to go from online to offline. I have met with women, and sometimes they're just looking at, and sometimes I'm just in the right place at the right time. And I just get lucky. So that happens,
Have you had more luck in person or online?
Yeah, so I've gotten laid more online, but all of my relationships, believe it or not, have actually come from in-person meetings. The flight attendant, the girl I'm with now. And I think I do better in that because I don't have to navigate that awkward online phase where, it's like, who the fuck am I? But if I'm in person, they get a chance to actually see who I am. It just gives me a little bit better of a chance to be with someone that I like,
Yeah, I would say this. Like, let me say this. I would definitely describe you as a high value guy in terms of, you're brilliant. You're a great entrepreneur. You're driven. You've been successful. I mean, the first time I met Zach, I'm like, I'm going to fucking work with this guy the rest of my career. I literally said that the next day. I met him one day. The next day I said, he and I are working together for the rest of our careers, because where he was at 20 was a decade ahead of where I was at 20. I was like, God, this kid is unbelievably gifted. What he really needs is like an older brother like me to keep him between the rails so that he can maximize his gifts. And in many ways, that's what I've been to Zach.
You're my mentor.
Right. Yeah. I've been like an older brother. You know what I mean? So you are definitely, I think you rate yourself. I mean, in terms of general looks, you're certainly at a minimum, you're at least average, which would make you a 5. I mean, it's not like your face is symmetrical.
I'm not
you're
like
in good yeah. You have regular teeth. You're in good shape. I mean, so let's say you're average, but when you take the other things, like your ability to riz in person, I mean, like Anya is a beautiful woman. I mean, he's with a beautiful Ukrainian, like, and then the flight. I mean, the women he's had relationships with are beautiful women. So obviously, Zach, you have luck with women, and so you would say, hey, for you, dating online is not optimal for you, right? It's not
optimal for me. Even given that I can reach a lot more women that way, the ratios just don't work out for a guy like me, But
Vaughn, what about
in
you?
Person,
go ahead, Zach. Sorry. Go ahead, Zach.
No, I mean, just in person, I think I also don't. I don't care as much about rejection, so it's not like I can I can be extroverted, so I'll put on a mask, and so I can act like I don't have autism, right? It can be kind of draining, but I can be a social person, and I can mask, and then over time, the hardest part for me is once I start to unmask and they start to see some of my quirks, it's like, are they wanting to stick around for that, or know, because it is pretty difficult to be with me. I'm not gonna lie, it's difficult to work with me, but I think that's
we call it the squirrel because he has Asperger's. We work together. All three of us work together in one of my companies, and we're in the process of making that company an employee-owned company. So these guys will come into the ownership group at some time. Zach and I have been working together since 2012, so 12 years now. There was periods where we weren't working together, but we've been in parallel, right? We joke. Zach will come up with the best ideas in the world. You know what I mean? But it's 1 in 3 are world-class ideas, and our job is to distract him from the 2 terrible ideas, have him focus on the good one. And then also to not have him get distracted by the squirrels. And the same thing
applies to women.
Is in your personal life, right? It's the same fucking thing. So yeah, but with all of us, there's shit that you got to deal with. Like, I'm insensitive. I tell every woman I date, I'll say, I warn them up front. I'm certainly gonna say things that offend you because I'm not thinking about your feelings when I'm talking. Like, I don't think about people's feelings when I'm talking. And I know a lot of people generally do. How might this person react emotionally? I always think about how someone might react emotively, how they might emote based on what I said. But I don't necessarily think how it's going to make them feel emotionally unless I'm trying to make them angry using conflict theory. But I realize most people do. I don't. Number 2, I don't care about birthdays. So, if you're the type of girl who's going to get mad on Valentine's Day or on your birthday because I didn't do something special, I'm not the guy to be with. I might do something special. I might not. But I'm not going to be put in a position where the expectation is I'm going to do something special because the people at Hallmark said that day arbitrarily is a special day. Okay. I want to be judged based on how I am every day, not on how I am on your fucking birthday. Okay. So that's what you got to deal with, with me. Right. All right, Vaughn, with you, you're dating with you. Well, actually, let's start with since Nicole passed away. Mm-hmm. So your wife passed away 4.5 years ago, right?
Yep.
What has dating been like? Because you're in your late 40s.
Yeah.
Right. So what has it been like for you since Nicole passed away? And we'll revisit what it was like younger.
It's for me since she's passed away has been hard. Obviously, when you're with somebody for a decade or more, actually. So, you kind of get emotionally attached to these people, right? Especially if you've committed your life to being with them and you have kids together, you have a family. But kind of how that affected me dating wise is I'm not again, I'm in my late 40s, so I'm not a long online dater. I've always been a face-to-face guy.
You're a rizzer. I've had a chance to see it with my own eyes. You're a rizzer.
Yeah. So, that's just, I believe in myself, and my ability to deliver whatever I'm going to deliver, whether that message is to a woman or if it's, in my job. But So I'm definitely a face-to-face guy. So the new era of dating with online dating has definitely affected me. It's kind of hurt me, especially since it took me a while to get out of the rut of just getting over and getting past and moving on, which takes time. I mean, it's obviously as to be expected.
Who have you dated? Who have you dated and relate? Like we had the Fountain of Youth,
Yeah,
right? So he dated a real young,
yeah. Dated a
Fountain
girl
of Youth.
half my age. I dated her for about a year. That was just kind of honestly, that was a physical thing to get, just to kind of get me back going again. I guess to make sure I still had it. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But since then, a lot of my time, honestly, had been spent with our company and just kind of trying to get my career on track because I
Right.
felt like at my age with kids, I needed to have everything squared away
So
that way.
Vaughn is raising my nephew alone. So Holden, his son that he had with Nicole, he raises alone since Nicole passed away.
Right. And I have two adult children, stepkids as well. So, but since then, I mean, I've had successes. Um, I mean, just to be really honest, I haven't had a lot of rejection from women when I pursue them. That's the thing. And I'm pretty selective of who I pursue. I've always been one of those guys. I'm just not trying to go out and get my carrot wet, so to speak. I'm trying to,
Mm-hmm.
even
By the
if
way,
I
there's
was
nothing wrong with that. There's
right.
nothing wrong with that. If you're a dude who just wants to go out and get laid,
Oh, absolutely. And I
more
can't say
power
that
to
I
you.
haven't been that way before, as a young man,
Right.
obviously. But I was still way more selective about those girls than, just whatever happened to be in the bar at 2:00 in the morning, right?
Well, let me
Yeah.
let me
Go
say
ahead.
this. Let me ask you guys this question. So the young guys, I have there's a bunch of young dudes like my friends, my son's friends, and guys like I power lift with, and guys in the gym. It's stunning to me the number of like really good looking guys in the gym who struggle to date. Like and I'm talking young guys. I'm not talking fucking guys who are 40. I'm talking guys in their early 20s, mid 20s who really struggle to date, and these are good looking guys. It's not like, I mean, they've got the, what they're missing? They're missing the ability to talk to women. They don't know how to talk to women, and they also don't know how to recognize the red flags in women. And so
Right.
when they
I think
are
it's
in
also
fact ending
another
up with
thing too. Is they're outcome dependent. So they're
yes,
dependent on the outcome of what she's going to say to me.
yeah,
If she rejects me, it's going to absolutely just crush that guy. You have to
ruin
learn,
them
and
for a week,
you have to
2
learn
weeks,
to
yeah.
not be. Yeah, you have to learn to be outcome independent, like Zach was talking about. It's not the end of the world. It's like you said, she's done you a favor. You could cross her off the list for whatever reason, and move along. I mean, women outnumber men in this world 2-1. So I mean, you've got options.
I
I remember
have
talking.
yeah. Go ahead, Zach. Go ahead.
I was at a bar one time. This was a while ago, in downtown LA at a high rise, just like a rooftop bar. And there was these two smoke shows, and I don't know what I was thinking, but I tried talking to them, and they didn't even acknowledge my existence. And I tried to keep, I tried again, and then they fucking called security.
Did they really?
They did.
So
Because then I kind of got pissed because I kind of was like, "That's rude," I'm trying to talk to you, like.
Well,
Anyways,
Vaughn, I already know. I know the answer to this question. If you talk to the two smoke shows and they ignored you, you obviously wouldn't talk to them again. But
No.
you wouldn't go back to the well.
I took
a
it
second time.
personally. I took it a little personally, and then I just kind of scoffed at them, and then that's when they.
But
So
what's
I
your take?
wasn't really trying to. I think I think they were, well, maybe I was a little delusional, but I do think they were maybe the exception, not the rule. But I think most women, even who are not smoke shows and tens, they think that they're a smoke show because they're getting a bunch of guys that are the bottom 80% that are doing nothing but liking them. So even if they're realistically average, which think about it, most people are average, half are above, half are below.
Yeah.
But yet they're all thinking that they're tens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's have that conversation real quick. I was gonna have me tell the story about Hayden this past weekend. Don't let me forget to tell that story. All right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about why are things the way they are. So here's my experience dating after divorce. It is stunning to me the number of women who are going to die alone with their cats. and it's sad. It's not fair. It's fucking wrong, but it is the way it is. Okay? There are so many women who blew up their fucking marriages thinking that the grass was going to be greener on the other side of the fence. They can't even tell you why they ended their marriage. They were bored. They were whatever it was, but they blew their shit up thinking their life was going to get better. They literally believed their life was going to get better, and it got exponentially worse. The vast majority. Now, is there a scenario where a woman's life gets, yeah, if you're in an abusive relationship, and when I say abuse, I mean he beats the shit out of you. If a guy holds you accountable and you call that abuse, if he holds you accountable because you're not holding up your end of the bargain and you call that abuse, you're the problem, not him. Okay? Because you went into that relationship expecting that guy to lead anyway. All right? But if someone's actually abusive to you, you should end that relationship. You should get the fuck out of Dodge. Right? I think the women who are genuinely in a bad situation and they get out and they are happier or they're more content, I don't think you should be chasing happiness. Those are women who made the right call. The vast majority of women that I have talked to who blew up their marriages, and it's literally every woman I talk to, they're the ones who chose to get divorced. I cannot think of a woman that I talked to since I've been divorced. Actually, I can think of one. And she was a wonderful woman. She had only ever been with him. Like literally, she had slept with one guy in her whole life. This, wonderful woman. I just didn't feel anything for her. There was no spark. I thought she was wonderful. I just didn't feel anything. He cheated on her. She tried to get over it. She couldn't. She's a really religious woman. She's the only one. Everybody else blew the relationship up. And the vast majority, 99% of them, realized the grass wasn't greener on the other side of the fence, and they can't forgive themselves, and then they get run through. And I hate to say it this way, but they get run through. The more guys they have that come through their bed, women don't, most women don't acknowledge this, and I realize it much later in life. Number one, every time a woman sleeps with a man, he takes a piece of her with him. Every time a guy sleeps with a woman, she does not take a piece of him. Like here's a newsflash, men and women. Women compare every man they've been with to every other man they've ever been with. Guys do not compare the women they've been with. We don't go, oh, this girl fucking does X like my ex did, or it's nothing like that. It's compartmentalized. We do not compare women horizontally. Women do. So the more bodies a woman's got, the more men a woman has slept with, the more important it becomes that the last guy she's ever with is the greatest she's ever had, not just sexually, but all the way around the board, so that she can have a meaningful relationship with him. She can't be looking back into her past and see something better. Men don't need that. Men don't have that. We don't do that comparison. Men don't do that comparison. What we do is we look at it right in front of us. Does she have the traits I'm looking for? Is she loyal? Is she nurturing? Does she soften my hard edges? Does she fuck the war out of me? Are we intellectually compatible? Do we share common values? Does she make my life better? We don't go, does she make my life better than this other person did? We don't do that.
Right.
Women do that. Right. What was the thing we wanted to talk about right here though? Not Hayden, but the topic we want to talk about right now. What was it? What did I say?
You had asked Vaughn and I what our experiences was with dating, and then I pivoted to you asked me something, and I said, well, women are delusional because they are getting validated from all these guys on the apps. They think they're 10 when they're not.
Why do they date up?
Yeah, look at Instagram. I did this actually. So we have a girl that we power lift with. Beautiful woman, late 30s. I think she's been divorced a couple times. I think she has 2 sons. Beautiful woman, smart. I mean, she's beautiful. Like she's a 9 physically. I mean, she's a stunner. Okay. We were in a gym one time. We were in a gym last year. I'm not gonna say which gym it was, and it was like our whole group. It was like 6 of us training that day, and it was her and one other girl, Kaylee, Josh's my soon-to-be daughter-in-law. And we were talking about how the guy who runs the gym is a dick. We're like, he's such a fucking asshole. He's such a dick to everybody. when we come in. And she said, "Oh, I don't he's always really nice to me." And we all looked at her like, have
Of course
you
he
fucking
is.
looked in the mirror? Like, of course he's nice to you. Like, women, go ask a female friend, you young guys out there. I want you, if you got a female friend who you're close to, I want you to ask her to let you see her DMs and Instagram. I want you, and I did this. I've done it several times. Okay. You would be stunned at the number of DMs beautiful women get from men telling them how beautiful they are. So what happens is even girls who are not that beautiful, even girls who are 5s and 6s, this
Guys
is how you end up
simping over them.
Yeah, this is how you end up with a 250-pound girl thinking she's a 10 because she's being gassed up by guys who are just trying to sleep with her. Newsflash, women, when a guy is showing interest in you, he is not telling you he wants to date you. He may want to date you eventually, but the only thing he knows is that he would sleep with you. Yeah. That's it. That's
and
all.
We would sleep with pretty much almost. I mean,
right.
It's
but
a lot of guys
girl,
sleep with anything.
But when a girl matches with a guy, every woman who matched with me on a dating app was signaling to me, you look like the kind of guy I'd have a relationship with. 99% of the men who are matching with you, ladies, are signaling to you, you look like the kind of girl I would fuck.
Yes.
And then maybe through chemistry, it grows into something else. But we're not signaling the same things. And women become delusional and believe that they are higher in the scale in the dating market. Think about it. A guy who is an 8, a 9, or a 10 will sleep with a woman who's from a 4 to a 10. But he's only going to wife up or date a woman who's a 7, 8, 9, or 10.
Yeah.
Right? And so he's gonna bang. He'll have that chick on the side. He'll have her. He'll be calling her at 2 a.m. He'll be going on dates with her not in his hometown. The
fours give the sloppiest toppy. They give the hawk tua like no other. I'm serious.
I used to make this joke, and I don't want this to sound misogynistic in any way, shape, or form. I love women. I have nothing but the utmost respect for women. I really do. We're observing. If you don't want to hear the observations, our experiences dating, then you definitely don't want to be listening to this message. My brother Jerry has always dated big girls. Okay. He could rizz up. He could. I mean, he's been with really beautiful women too, but he's always dated. His relationships have always been with bigger girls. And I asked him one time, I'm like, dude, why is it is that the girl you're the most attracted to? And he's like, no. He goes, through experience, I realized 2 things. If I'm going to be in a relationship, I'm going to be a relationship with a woman where I'm going to eat good and she's going to try hard. That's what he told me. He's like, the girl who's the smoke show, who's getting gassed up all the time, she doesn't think she's got to put any work in. That's what he said.
Yeah.
You got to date across or down.
Right. My experience has not been that. I mean, yes. Are there lots of beautiful women out there who, those two good looking girls that you went up to in LA, right? Here's the difference between how I would have handled it and you. I'm not going to go talk to those 2 girls until one of them has made eye contact with me more than once, because that's how she's signaling to me I'm attractive and she wants me to come talk to her. Hey, guys out there, if a girl hasn't made eye contact with you more than once, do not go up and talk to her. If she accidentally makes eye contact with you once, she's a good-looking girl and she doesn't find you attractive, there's no fucking chance she's going to let herself make eye contact with you a second time, because she knows that you might come talk to her.
First thing in her head is,
Okay.
oh, shit.
Oh, shit, when she makes eye contact with you the first time. Those 2 girls in LA, I would, if neither of them had made eye contact with me twice, I would not have even bothered to go up and talk to them, no matter what. Okay.
I think you're right. I was very immature back then. This was a while ago.
But do you know why?
It was because they were proximately very close to me, and so that's where it gave me there was like a table, and then I was on these 2 chairs, and they were on a bench over here. So I was just like, just.
But I want to say this to the young guys here. Here's my conclusions on dating online. Okay. I had 2 relationships that were multi-month relationships with women I met online. Total strangers that I would have never run into, and I dated lots of beautiful women, and and my kids have been part of it, so they've had a chance to see basically everybody I've gone out with for the most part. I've had 2 relationships that I would say were, long enough for me to say these are, this was I don't want to say a girlfriend, but we were seeing each other, legitimately seeing each other, spending the night at each other's houses and stuff. I did stay the night with a lot of people, but only 2 people did I ever have stay with me, right? And there is no substitute for meeting someone in person, meeting them in person for the first time. There's no substitute, because the most successful relationships I've had, the most meaningful ones, are people. Love happens to you, man. Love is not something you make happen. It just happens to you. And the people who knew me when I was younger, that's the people I'm resonating with after my divorce. Yeah,
make a point or a suggestion for the women that are out there? And this is a really common thing that if you're on a dating app, you'll have, especially if you're matching with a lot of random people, and you're like wanting to meet up, they'll say, well, what is your intentions? And as a guy, we really don't fucking know. Like, we don't know if we want to date this girl. We don't know if we just want to sleep with her. We know we'd probably sleep with her. So when they say like, oh, well, what are your intentions? What are you looking for? That's just it's such a roadblock. And I don't think it's actually productive if you know how guys work. They are not, if he's just straight up saying, I guess there's probably some guys who are not interested in a relationship. And if that's the case, then they should probably be upfront about that. But I would say most guys would be open to.
You know who those guys are. The guys who are not interested in a relationship are the guys who don't try to get to know you at all before they want to meet you. Okay, like I dated with intention. At no point, getting laid for me has always been easy. There is a long line of women that I've known my whole life who I know. They tell me I DJ'd for a long time. Like, fucking women will say the dumbest things to DJs. They'll literally come right up and it's always a general, like, why is it we've never hooked up before or whatever? And my answer normally would be, you've met my wife, haven't you? First off, she would fuck you up. She would fuck you up, number one. And number 2, she'd fuck me up. All right. So that's why we haven't, because I only DJ'd while I was married. But, there's a long line of women who would sleep with me. That getting laid's easy. It's always been easy. Okay. And I think if guys are being honest with themselves, it's easy for every guy. Not every guy. It's easy for a guy who can get a date. Okay. It's just, you may not know how to make it easy for yourself. Mm-hmm. It's not that it isn't easy. It's that I don't think you know how to make it easy for yourself. Like, number 1, don't invest your time in women who are not interested. Like, don't try to win a woman over. A woman knows in 10 seconds or less already whether she's into you at all. So if that chemistry is not there, if you don't feel the chemistry, she doesn't feel the chemistry, because it's a 2-way street. It ain't a 1-way street. Chemistry doesn't go in one direction. Vaughn's over there like going, don't come into the fucking camera shot. We're doing a fucking podcast. Exactly. But I do want to say this, Zach. Women can tell the guys that are just trying to get laid. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with it. My argument is, if you're a guy who's just trying to get laid, be honest about it. Mm-hmm. Don't lie, misrepresent your intention. Be honest. But what I'm saying, if a woman says to you, what is your intention? Say, I don't know, Zach. When they say, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Men fall in love in 3 phases. Right. What I'm telling you, I
want to meet the girl and to even know if I'd want to even, continue to.
What are we going to meet for? So I can get to know you, so I can find out if I want to take this somewhere. Right.
Right. What I want to do is be in your presence. This is a good response. When a girl says, "What are your intentions?" Say, "My intentions right now. There's a macro. I'm dating." Because be honest about what your intentions are. But let's say you're dating because you're looking for a life partner. Okay. Then say, my goal is to find a life partner, and I don't want to invest any time in somebody that I don't think I have the potential of that. My goal for this date is to be close to you and see if I feel like I want to be closer.
That's a good response.
That's the end of it. That's the end of it. And if she's
that'll,
like,
that'll overcome the objection.
That'll overcome the objection. You know what I mean? And then, I want to tell the story about Hayden, my son Hayden. So my 3 sons are all really good looking boys. They're all 3 of my boys are 8, 9, 10, in terms of physical attractiveness. Okay. My middle son, Jared, is the one who's definitely got the most game. He's the high emotional intelligence, fucking balls of steel. He will literally talk to anybody. He's not intimidated at all. His girl that he's with now, he's been with for a couple of years. She hunted him down on a cruise ship. I mean, literally, he hooked up with her on a Christmas cruise that we went on after my divorce, and they've been together ever since. And she's the one who targeted him. Okay. My youngest son, Hayden, is probably, he's probably he's the shyest of the 3. Josh has been my oldest son, Josh, is probably the prettiest. We call him the pretty one. And he's been in a long-term relationship and is getting ready to get married. He's found the perfect woman. Motherfucker's set for life. He's golden. All right. Hayden has been a very, very attractive, mysterious, intelligent, brooding dude for a couple of years now. But he
also
doesn't talk
on the spectrum a little, right?
Probably, yeah. And he's uber intelligent, IQ over 150. Just he didn't even study for his SAT and got 1,400 on it, and he's super gifted. Long hair, beautiful eyes. He's got aesthetically, he's a very attractive guy, but he doesn't talk to women, and he's been terrified. We've had him talk to girls in controlled settings just to get him used to it. We'll pick it. He'll say, "Oh, that girl's cute." And then we'll guide him through the process, make him walk up, and then we're there for him when he comes back. And we tell him what to say, and then he'll come back. And it's just this process of like getting used to talking to women. This last weekend, he's in the gym. We all train together. I train in the gym with my sons. I cannot stress to you enough. We were talking about this earlier. Guys, if you're listening to this, no matter who you are, my kids, my grandkids, friends, whatever it is, and you're not in the gym 4 days a week, start there. Fall in love with the gym. Be in the gym at least 4 days a week. Fall in love with the gym. Okay? You need the confidence that comes from being in the gym. Okay? Even if you don't want to have big muscles, you need the confidence that comes from it. And this story is a manifestation of that. Earlier this week, 225, 2 wheels is obviously a big milestone for anybody in the bench press. And Hayden did an assisted 225-pound bench press at 17 years old. He weighs 160 pounds, and he pushed 225 for the first time ever, wearing a slingshot with 8% or 4% assistance. He pushed 225, which is a monster push for a kid at that body weight. And he did basically did a backflip when he came up off the bench. He was so excited. He rode that high. We went to a post-workout meal. We went to Steak and Shake, or Shake Shack, or whatever it is. And there were these 3 girls that were in the Shake Shack. And he's like, and he went and picked up our food, and he came by, and he's got a really good wink. And he winks at one of them, and he comes and he sits down. And he says, and he sees the girls leave eventually. They're giggling, and they're trying to get his attention. And, and then they leave, and then he looks out, and he sees that they walk across the street to go to the Barnes & Noble, and he says to me, this is totally out of his character, but he's riding this high of pressing the 225. He says, I think I want to go get a hard copy of Andy Weir's whatever book, The Martian or whatever it was. I said, let's do it. So we drive over there, and he said, how should I handle, I want to go talk to the one with the dark hair. And I said, your goal is to talk to her for 10 seconds or less. Okay. Now, and just get her and see what you feel. And if you feel anything, ask her for her Instagram or whatever. And he said, okay. And he goes in, and he sees her. They see him. He hesitates. He comes back to me. I encourage him. And then eventually he just goes and fucking shoots his shot. And it goes great. He goes and we leave. And he says to me, today is the greatest day of my entire life. He pushed the 225, and then he jumped over the hump of I got to see it with my own eyes that now he'll never have a problem going to talk to a girl ever again. by the way, I want to say two things. Number one, the reason it worked for him is because I told him, you go up there and see if you feel something. I didn't say go up there and see if she likes you. What I said was go up there and see if she feels something. You feel something. Because guess what? Just because she's beautiful doesn't mean you're going to feel something. Okay? And mindset of the guy needs to be, I'm going to walk up to her and see if I feel something. Number two, he did that in person. So he had already, this is a big difference between dating online and dating in person. When you're dating in person, you get to pre-vet them. You get to see how they walk. You get to see, you know, before you ever even talk to them, you get to see, do I find everything attractive? And it worked for him. And that was a big milestone for him, a huge milestone for him, you know, this weekend. And so for you young guys, it's an incremental process. You know, it's an incremental process where you have to be confident in yourself before you ever even have this conversation. We had this thing about, you know, Zach was like, you know, he'd asked me this question before. What would you tell young guys who don't have any, or maybe it was Noah who asked me, they don't have any money and they don't have any confidence. I said, get your confidence first. Don't even try to date until you have confidence. And now if some girl falls out of the sky and lands in your lap, don't ignore her. But you know, get your confidence first. Where does that come from? Achievement, right? In this case, Hayden's achievement was pressing that 2 1/4, right? And he literally felt like I can do anything. He's riding high on it. Or he didn't get that on his keyboard and his mouse playing video games in his bedroom. He got it pushing iron in the gym. And Hayden couldn't possibly be a bigger fucking nerd than what he is. Okay, so it isn't like he's a jock or anything. He's a nerd who spends a lot of time in the gym, just like me. Okay, all right.
It's impressive he pushed that much in short of time he's been lifting too, because he hasn't been
correct.
lifting that long.
Right, obviously he's genetically gifted. Right, you know, he's always had a huge chest, and I think I think he's the one who inherited the good bench press from me, because both of his brothers push significant weight, but not relative to the multiplier that he is. You know, I'm at 2 times body weight, you know, and Hayden did like 1.6 or something. I mean, that's a huge number, bench press. And I think his brothers are both in the 1.4 range. So, Zach, what any other pointers for you on the delusion piece? You know, I mean, delusion is probably the big. I want to end with some reading recommendations and some, you know, with that. But I want to make sure we drive home this delusion thing, that both men and women have it, not just women. Okay, I think a lot of the content online it's good. I think there's a lot of great advice. I don't want to, but you know, on the whatever podcast.
Right. If you're a guy, you're delusional if you think a girl wants to go 50-50. If you're a girl, you're delusional if you think a guy wants a strong and independent woman.
Amen. Those are good. That's really good. Yeah, let's go with that. No guy. Hey, ladies. No, it's great if you're strong and independent, but the guy you're looking for doesn't want strong and independent. That doesn't mean he doesn't want you to be strong and independent with him. So why you would put that forward as a selling point to the kind of guy you're looking for is beyond me. That is delusion.
That's going to attract a simp beta, and she's not going to respect him, and that relationship is going to go terrible. That's what you're going to attract.
What do you hear, Vaughn? When you hear strong and independent, what's the first thing you think?
She's a bitch.
Yeah, she's a bitch. She's a pain in the ass. I don't want to deal with it. I don't have to deal with it, so I'm not going to.
Yep.
Right? Yeah, I'm not. You know, I mean, I can't tell you how many times. I'm a huge fan of the soft next. So as guys, I don't think you should argue with your girl. I think you should either soft next it or move on. That is end the relationship. So, soft next means change the subject, and if she doesn't want to change the subject, leave the room. And if she doesn't like you leaving the room, leave the relationship. You know, when I can't tell you how many times guys will say to me, "What do I do in situation X, Y, or Z?" And I say, "Walk away and never look back." Now, if she comes chasing after you and taps you on the shoulder, have a conversation, but walk away and never look back. You know, I love this woman, and you know, what do I do? She says she doesn't want to be with me anymore. You know, how do I get her back? You walk away and you never look back. Well, what do I do if she doesn't want to get me back? What do I do if she's not coming back? You walk away and you never look back. Okay, that's the best thing you can do, guys. You don't want to hear it, but it's the best thing you can do.
That's how I got Anna back when we broke up.
Walking away and never looking back.
Yeah, after she blocked me on everything, and all I did, I didn't even have a choice. I just walked away, and she came back after a few months. I was working on myself. My business was doing well. I was, very, appearing successful. And so she, I caught her one day. She unblocked me and then peeked my story and then reblocked me. And I was like, okay. So I just kept putting in my work, kept focusing on me. Next thing you know, then she unblocks me again, and then she hits me up, slides back into the DMs, and it worked. Worked perfectly. I think that's really good advice. It's hard to do, but it's really good advice. I think that's what works.
Again, it goes to outcome independence. You have to be independent of the outcome you're going to get.
Yeah,
I'll say one thing that the girl I'm dating now, I've been dating her for about a month, but we have known each other for a long time, and we just reconnected recently. Um, but I asked her one time because she and I were talking, and we were talking about just kind of where we were at, and I was like, I said, yeah, you're all right, you're decent, I like you, you're a good person. And she's like, oh, that's it? And I was like, yeah. I said, you're not going to get anything else out of me than that. She's like, why not? And I told her, I said, look, I know how it is with women. If I spill myself to you, then you lose interest. And I was like, and that kind of led into what my point is. So that we kind of had a conversation around that. And she's like, I think women, and here's another delusion with women. They always want what they can't have. Once they feel like they've got you, they don't want you anymore.
A man wants everything. A man wants everything, and a woman wants what she can't have. If a man's left to his own devices, he'll sleep with every woman that he could sleep if he's left to his own devices. Here's the only difference between a good guy and a bad guy. Okay, the good guy keeps his promise. The good guy is the guy. The good guy isn't the guy who doesn't notice the beautiful woman over there and doesn't acknowledge to himself that he would blow her back out. The good guy is the one who says, I'm not going to do that because I made a promise to her I wouldn't. That's the good guy.
I'd rather have a guy
keeps his word,
who has kids with 5 women at one time and takes care of all the women and takes care of all of his kids than the beta guy who can't even take care of his own one kid and his own one wife.
As long as the guy who's got 5 kids with 5 different women, it didn't lie to any of those women that wasn't what his game was about. You know what I mean? It's
Correct.
you shouldn't lie to get into some girl's pants, and a woman shouldn't lie to get in some guy's wallet. And at the end of the day, just be honest about. I to the guys who are late in life and just started dating and looking for, here's my advice to you post-divorce. Because I didn't want to get divorced. My ex-wife, she asked for divorce. It wasn't me. I mean, there's a whole video on this channel earlier about, what is it, navigating divorce or staying focused during divorce, I think is the name of it. But the cliff notes of my divorce is my ex-wife and I were together 25 years. We got divorced 11 days for our 20th wedding anniversary. I was rich as fuck, super successful. We had amazing kids. She just went through a tough time. Her dad got cancer. She had 4 years where she just went off the fucking deep end emotionally. Just went off the deep end. We tried to make our way through it, counseling, mediation, all that stuff. And she just woke up one day and said, I don't want to be married to you anymore. She never said, I don't love you. But she said, I don't want to be married to you anymore. I don't want to be your wife anymore. And
how'd that make you feel?
It's hard for me to say how I don't really feel things in moments of crisis. It's more,
what was that like?
I think things. It was, okay, is she serious? That was my first, is this another episode or is this something I actually have to deal with? That was my first. Over a couple of weeks, she didn't come off her position. So then we negotiated our divorce and I was the one who filed for divorce. We put some rules in place to make it so it wasn't acrimonious because we had tens of millions of dollars on the line. We had a totally amicable divorce. No hate, nothing. From the moment she told me she didn't want to be married to me anymore over the phone. I never saw her again for 7 or 8 months. Like she went to our place in upstate New York. I stayed here with the kids. Custody of the kids was one of the deals. I would have spent every penny of mine on custody of my sons. She never fought custody because she knew that I would spend every dollar fighting it. And she also knew that our boys needed their dad. They're teenagers. They needed me more than they needed her at that. Ladies, if you are taking your teenage sons away from their dad when they're teenagers, you are setting them up for fucking failure. Let me say it again. If you take your teenage sons away from their father when they are teenagers, you are setting your sons up for failure. And I can tell you this right now, if I come across some woman who's got a teenage son and she's the reason he doesn't have a relationship with his dad, I want nothing to do with her, because she's told me everything that I need to know about what she thinks about the value of a strong man in someone's life. Okay, because your son, I'll tell you this right now, your son will gravitate to his father once he's in control of his own life, if his father is the kind of guy that he respects. It isn't whether you respect his dad, it's whether he respects his dad. And if you want to have a relationship with your son, you shouldn't be keeping him from his dad. Yeah. But my point is, Tanya didn't put up a fight there. I started dating pretty much right away because it had been a 4-year process. My kids wanted me to date. They were afraid I was going to end up with somebody I knew, that somebody would kind of swoop in. I mean, it was kind of crazy. I mean, I had to change my phone number. Some of my ex-wife's friends reached out to me, and I mean, it was creepy shit. It was creepy fucking shit. I ended up changing my phone number over it. And I really realized what people were made of. You know what I mean? There were a lot of people who I thought I was friends with. I learned that men and women couldn't be friends during my divorce, because it was women are just as bad as dudes are in those situations. I dated, but it was all people I met online. I have no horror stories, just no magic. And then 7 months later, my ex-wife reached out to me and asked if we could try and reconcile. And so we went to Grand Cayman, hung out. We tried to reconcile. It just didn't work. It was like, I couldn't get over the fact that she had told me, I don't want to be married to you anymore. And I told her, I said, I don't want to, imagine I put a gun in your mouth. Imagine just one day I lost it and I put a gun in your mouth. Would you ever be able to forget the image of me putting a gun in your mouth? And she said, no. And I said, you saying to me that you don't want to be married to me or you don't want to be my wife anymore, that's you putting a gun in my mouth. And so while we're close to this day, we're very close, and it is what it is. You move on. You can't look back. I'll say this: there was a girl that I knew when I was growing up, who I just accidentally started talking to on social media. She commented on a post I did, and she just accidentally reached out, right? And then I went to dinner with her or whatever, and it was, and through that process, I kind of realized, I think the best relationships for me are going to be face to face. It's not dating online. Dating online, I think, is for the fucking birds, and it's I think it serves a purpose, and yeah, you can catch lightning in a bottle, but I think to young people, I would tell you, try to find your partner in person. You know what I mean? You don't have to use dating apps to be successful. Jared didn't meet his girl through a dating app. Josh didn't meet his girl through a dating app. And I guarantee Hayden's not going to meet his girl through a dating app. Okay. I think, and you guys, all of us here have dated on apps. I think we would all agree that the likelihood is that dating on apps is going to fuck your head up more than it's going to make you feel good. Right?
It's terrible.
Yeah. I mean, and I've been lucky. I've been inundated with women who, and I thought it was a shit show, if I'm being honest with you. Not that I didn't meet wonderful people, but I had to put in a lot of work to whittle down those 1,000 women who matched with me over the course of, say, 4 or 5 months.
If I'm you, I lower my minimum threshold a little bit. And I think that from there, this is the whole thing. Like a 40-year-old guy, a 50-year-old guy could date a 25, 30-year-old woman, but the other way around is not. You just couldn't do it.
Can't do it. I dated a girl who was 35, and it just, she was beautiful and all that, but it was just, I couldn't even do 35 again. And I certainly couldn't do under 35. No fucking way, dude. I'll say this. Let me say this one last thing about.
Because if you're a 25 or 30-year-old guy, you're competing against those 45-year-old guys who make $1 million a year.
Correct.
You know?
At 50 years old, I'm not competing with 25-year-old guys, but a 50-year-old woman is competing against 25-year-old women for the same men, like legitimately.
Yes.
You know, and here's another one. This is going to sound fucked up, but it's the truth. It is a God honest truth. If you are a guy who's in his late 40s, you know, let's say you've been divorced or you're a widower or whatever. Do you know who you should be looking for? You should be looking for the woman who either has never been married or is a widow. Because I dated one widow and she didn't have any of the trauma the divorced women had. And granted, that's a small sample size, but I've talked to other guys about it, and they've all said the same thing. That dating a widow, someone who lost their husband, is different than dating a woman who chose to leave her husband.
You have time to come to grips with the loss.
It seems like you'd be more appreciative of what you have if you lost your previous husband.
It is a huge red flag if a woman chose to end her marriage. That doesn't mean that divorced women are
flag, because
it's a yellow flag, right? I mean, you at least want to know why she chose to end that marriage, and that's why you got to ask those three questions. Go ahead, Vaughn.
Well, I was going to say, you know, when it comes to the widow, you know, you've had time to come to grips with the loss, you know, so you have time to process that baggage before you even decide you want to move on. Most people do. Clearly, there's always outliers. But most people are going to come to grips with that loss and the grieving before they ever try to move on. So when you see that, you know, it's a lot easier than somebody who has had that trauma from that relationship, hasn't processed it, because a lot of times they're going to go jump right into something else to appease my feelings.
To fill a hole.
How do I feel?
Yeah.
You know, so, and then that's just a train wreck that turns into a shit show. I will say something else about delusion. You were talking about fathers and single fathers in the home, or not being in the home. A lot of single women, and this is one reason I agree with you, women cannot raise men because you don't know the first thing about how to be a man.
Right.
So a lot of those women will try to teach their young boys what they should be as a man, but then the example they get that is in their mother's bed doesn't even meet the standard she's trying to tell her son that he needs to be.
I'll say this:
you woke up and chose violence, Vaughn.
Well, I will say this: at young men out there, if you want to know what it is a woman is looking for in a man, the last person you should ask is a woman, because most women can't tell you. They're what the words that they give you, it's cognitive dissonance. They're going to tell you things that they aren't actually attracted to. Like, for example, when a woman says she wants a guy who is in touch with his emotions, she doesn't mean that. What she means is she wants a guy who's in touch with her emotions, not his emotions. She will say, I want a guy who's in touch with his emotions. No, you do not. You don't want to hear that fucking guy cry about his problems, because you won't have any respect for him. Because he's the guy who's got to be the rock. He's got to be the stoic problem solver in the face of crisis. And the moment you question his ability to handle crisis, you're going to lose respect for him. That doesn't mean you're out the door, but it means your eyes are going to start wandering. For the guy
your eyes are going to start looking for other opportunities.
Yeah, you're going to be looking for that guy to put on the back burner. Okay? The last person you should ask for what a woman is looking for in a man is women. What you should do is observe the type of men that women go for. You should observe the type of men women go for. Okay? And confidence plays a huge role in that. Strength, provision, guys who signal that they can provide for you, guys who are leaders, so the kind of guys that other men look up to and other women want to be with. That's called pre-selection. That's a type of guy that a woman wants to be with. So what should you be doing, young guys? What you should be doing? Number one, you shouldn't be chasing women. You should be chasing excellence. Excellence in every single thing you do. Everything you do. If you chase excellence and you achieve excellence, the women will come.
Yes.
Okay. I will say this one other thing, because I don't want to treat relationships like they're transactional. Because if you listen to this, you might think I'm pretty cold in relationships, and I am not. I am a very loving person. I'm very attentive. I'm a very loving person. But I am always a man. I am always a man, 100% of the time. And if I think a woman's being irrational, I'm going to soft next her. I'm going to change the subject. I'm going to tell her to relax. I'm going to tell her not to overthink it. I'm going to tell her to chill. I got you. And we're moving on from the conversation. If a woman ever asks me, wants to have a conversation with me I am not interested in having, I'm not having the conversation. I'm not having the conversation. If I don't believe it's productive, I'm not having it. Okay?
I need to get better at that, honestly.
Here is a word every man needs to get comfortable saying in a relationship. No. Not no, ... and a big explanation. Just no. And then change the subject and move on. All right. Some things that you should do. I want to talk real quick about some books, the 4 books I think every guy needs to read. Okay? So number 1, absolutely first and foremost, if there's one book you are going to read, you need to read The Unplugged Alpha by Rich Cooper. It should be the Bible for young men. Now, let me start by saying I agree with maybe 70% of what Rich Cooper has got in that book. But if you were to only do the things that Rich says in that book, you're going to be successful. Okay? You're going to be a douchebag. You're probably going to be a douche because you might go a little too far with it. You could also become black-pilled, and it could make you be really cynical when it comes to women if you go too far with it. But I agree with about 70% of what he's got in that book. So but if you chose to just live your life by what Rich Cooper says in that, you're going to be successful. Okay? But you're also going to be a douche. All right. Number 2, for those of you who are more academic, you should read The Rational Male by Rollo Tomassi, the first book. Rollo Tomassi is the one who has done most of the research on modern dating. And Rich Cooper's book is sort of the everyman's version of The Rational Male. Okay? But Rational Male, Unplugged Alpha is a very easy book to read. Okay? There are 2 other books you should read. Okay? Number 1, you should read Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. Okay? I went back and forth. Should it be love languages or should it be Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus? But I decided it's Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. It's a softer book that is very optimistic about men and women, but it highlights the differences in us. And then last but not least, you should read a book called Eve in Exile. It's written by a woman for women, okay? But men need to read it. I'm going to tell you guys something that one of the greatest pieces of advice I've ever got that has been fucking invaluable to me in my life. My brother knows this story. I don't know if Zach does. My mom, my adopted mother, my mom got killed when I was 7 and I got adopted. And my adopted mother was really big into romance novels. She was a voracious reader. So all of us in our family adopted this trait. All my brothers and sisters read all the time. I have a stack of books next to my bed. I'm reading 5 books at a time, all the time. My mom read romance novels. And when we were teenagers, when all of the boys, there's 3 boys, I have 2 brothers in that family, my mom made us read 2 romance novels. We got to randomly pick them from a stack. And we had to read 2 romance novels. And when we asked her why, she said, because you're boys, and those are books written by women for women about what women want in romance. And you will not know it any other way. And I read Carol, her name was Carol Mortimer, was the author. They were these little short romance novels about, the big, strong Native American guy and the white lady and this passionate relationship. And I learned that for women, sex was 90% mental and 10% physical from romance novels. And I knew as a guy that sex is 90% physical and 10% mental for men. Yep. But romance novels taught me that. Romance novels also taught me how women want to be touched. They don't want to be touched the way they're touched in porn movies. That's for the end of the moment. when you get started, when you're starting with a woman, they don't want to start it like a porn. They want it to end like a porn. They want it to start like a romance novel. Okay? And I learned that from romance novels. Okay? So that's another piece of advice I would give guys. Go, and as stupid as you're going to feel doing it, you will fucking thank me. Okay? You will fucking thank me. All right? So the 4 books, Unplugged Alpha, Rational Male, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and Eve in Exile. Okay? That will give you a great cross-section as guys about modern relationships, modern traditional relationships. Because the women you must avoid like the plague for your relationship are modern women, postmodern women. You need to read Rich Cooper's 20 Red Flags in Women, okay? One of the biggest things in there is feminists. Avoid feminists. Avoid feminists. Like you can sleep with a feminist. Do not date a feminist. She will make your life hell. You will be the problem. Your buddies will be the problem. Your dad will be the problem. You will literally be the fucking enemy. You will literally be the person she resents because she's a feminist. Okay? Feminism, especially third wave feminism, is the reason our society looks the way it does today. Okay? Any parting thoughts for you guys on delusion? If you do those things, you can avoid delusion. That's the point.
Bonus book number 5, your book, Adversity and Success.
We need to release it. I mean, the reason I haven't released it is because I have this post-divorce section, and I know that I should just do it in a second edition. Everybody's told me that, but I'm like going through this journaling part after divorce, life after divorce, and I'm about ready to put a bow on it. So at some point, Adversity and Success, yes.
Vaughn?
Looking forward to that one. No, the thing that I would say parting is for those young guys that struggle with that confidence, and just find your confidence. Know what you bring to the table. Be yourself. Don't try to be anybody you're not, and shoot your shot.
All right, brother. We'll do this again. Modern dating, the crisis of delusion. It is a wrap. Like, subscribe, comment down below, and we'll see you in the next one.